care about what other people think, and you'll always be their prisoner. Have you ever thought to yourself, I wonder if they would be mad if I said no to the invitation? Would he or she be upset if I told them what I truly think? If thoughts like these have ever occurred to you, don't worry, you're not the only one, because I've had these kinds of thoughts many times in my life. I mean, humans are social by nature. We have always lived in groups to survive and thrive throughout history, so I believe that caring what other people think of us is normal and understandable because it's a part of our DNA that wires us to want to belong to a community or society. So desiring to be perceived positively by others is not a bad thing. It matters how people whom we love and care for think of us because it affects our relationships with them. For work-wise, being liked by your boss and co-workers means that you might get better career and work opportunities within the company in the long term. However, I believe that caring what others think of you could become a huge issue when you are more concerned with other people's reactions than your own values and well-being. Or even worse, you don't know what you think or neglect to hear your own inner voice. This is because you're so eager to please others as if you like your life for other people and not for yourself. I feel like I used to care so much about what others thought of me to a point that it was unhealthy. Because of this, I felt stressed, anxious, and frustrated about living my own life for a long time. I couldn't stop wondering what it would be like to live in a world where I care less about what others think of me or things that don't matter to my life. So about a few years ago, I felt that I had enough of how I was feeling. Then I was finally able to start taking action and searching for tips on how to make my situation better. And I came across self-help tips like just ignore it, ignore haters, ignore that social media post, ignore what others think of you, etc. Well, I must admit to you that I never thought that I was gonna be able to just ignore what was happening in my head. I mean, if it had been that easy, then I wouldn't have spent many days seeking other people's experiences and tips on how to improve my situation in the first place. Though the mentality of just ignore it didn't help me at all, I discovered some useful tips and perspectives that helped my journey to remain unbothered by doing a lot of research and trying to apply them to my day-to-day living. Although I'm nowhere near the perfection of not caring what others think of me, I believe that I have made significant progress on this matter over a few years. So in this video, I wanted to share with you 3 life lessons that I learned through the journey of remaining unbothered. 1. Use comparison to your good advantage. If we think about it, the majority of issues that we face in terms of anxiety, frustration, and worries are related to interpersonal problems. One of the biggest issues that we face nowadays is that a lot of us are caught up in the comparison trap subconsciously. Due to the development of social media, it has become so easy for us to look at what other people are doing with their lives and compare ourselves with them. I'm not talking about what your family members, friends, or acquaintances are up to, but I'm talking about comparing yourself with everyone around the world 24/7. Seeing what others accomplish or have in their lives makes us wonder, oh, why don't I have the same things that they have? Have I made a wrong choice about my career, etc.? I lived my life by questioning why I didn't have what others had or accomplished for a long time. And I must tell you that it only made me feel sad and miserable. So I started questioning myself to figure out why I was feeling the way I had been, and discovered that it was simply because those people whom I respected looked like they lived the life that I wanted to live in for myself. Then I thought maybe this uncomfortable feeling is trying to tell me that I should do something about my current situation and can be used as a cue for me to take action, if that makes sense. This is because if I hadn't felt uncomfortable about where I was at in life, then I wouldn't have even thought about attempting to change something of my life to make it better. This was when I figured out that comparing yourself to others isn't always a bad thing. because it can be either positive or negative, depending on how I look at it. What this means is that comparing can be used as a tool to acquire information that we can utilize to our advantage. For example, I look at creators like Matt D'Avella and Casey Neistat, who create meaningful content, and I think to myself, how can I make amazing content like them? This approach is positive because it gives me the motivation to improve myself as a creator, and this also gives me a representation of where I want to be in the future. We understand that if we want to change something about our lives, we need to do something about our current situation, because nothing is going to happen if we just sit there and don't do anything. Once I understood where I wanted to end up in life, the next step was to look at myself and compare my current self to my ideal self and think about what I needed to do to get there. What I learned from this experience is that comparison can be healthy and serve you as a tool to achieve things that you want, or unhealthy and sabotage your progress, but all of it comes down to how you use your mind to interpret the situation. 2. Manage your expectations. A lot of us tend to be heavily optimistic about our own expectations, but unrealistic expectations always get us disappointed. For example, when I decided to study abroad in New Zealand at the age of 15, I thought that my English would be fine to communicate with people in the country. However, on the first day at school, it turned out that my English was nowhere near good enough to make friends, and my expectation immediately turned from something joyful to a nightmare in a second. This ultimately happened because I didn't manage my expectation in the first place. If my expectation had been like, this life path is going to be difficult, but it'll be worthwhile if I continue learning English, then I wouldn't probably have felt as disappointed as I did when I was 15. The funny thing is that I continued setting my expectations high until about a few years ago because I kept believing that achieving something great was always expected of me by others. Little did I know at the time, I was the one creating the narrative of I must achieve great things in life, and it was just within my head for the whole time. Also, I must admit to you that I was heavily consumed by all the self-help content mentioning you dream big and you'll get there, and it made me feel that I was someone special who could achieve everything as I expected, but in reality, I was just a privileged and ignorant kid. Fortunately, I feel like I got to experience a lot of disappointments and failures because of my own unrealistic expectations, so that I became better at managing my expectations in a way that negative emotions don't take over my brain over the years. I guess this is where I'm currently at in life. I always put my 100% passion and work towards things that I love and matter to me, but I also understand that things never turn out to be what I expect, so what I focus on is the present. This is because now is the only thing that I can control about my life, and what I choose to do with my time right now is what creates my future. Because of this perspective, I no longer set my expectations too high, so when something incredible happens to me, I feel so grateful for it. On the other hand, if nothing happens, then I don't get as disappointed as I used to because I understand how not to set my expectations too high in the first place. 3. Understand that you can't make everyone happy, and that saves your precious energy and time. I'm sure all of us understand that we can't make everyone happy. We also know that there are always people that we can't please, no matter how hard we try to make them happy or be satisfied with what we do. Yet, a lot of us religiously keep trying to please others despite knowing in the back of our minds that it's not going to happen. Well, I lived like that for a long time, expecting that I could change other people's opinions and perspectives about me by improving myself. For example, when I was studying abroad in New Zealand, I noticed that there wasn't much information about New Zealand in general on the internet. So I started creating videos where I talked about my study abroad experiences as well as New Zealand culture and English at the age of 17. Then some people commented on my videos saying like, you can speak English only because of your parents' financial support, or don't talk about your studying abroad experiences unless you get into university in New Zealand, etc. I hope that I could change those people's opinions by working hard to get into university. Then I got into university in New Zealand, and guess what happened? Some people left comments saying that your English is not good enough to study in university. You don't even work in New Zealand, so you don't have the right to talk about your study abroad experiences. At this point, I felt devastated because I couldn't change their opinions, although I tried improving myself and achieved goals that I set for myself as much as possible. But this experience gave me an important lesson that I can't make everyone happy. No matter what I do or what I say, there are always people who don't like me, and it's just the way it is. I'm glad that I could learn this fact at an early age because I stopped consuming my time for people who don't value me at all and started to focus on spending time with people that I care for and love. This doesn't mean that I intentionally become mean or rude to people who have different views in comparison to my perspectives or disrupt other people's lives because I only care about myself. What I mean by this is that I always try my best to express myself with loving kindness towards others, but if that's not enough for them and they don't like who I am, then that's when I say, oh well, tough shit, I tried and I move on. I guess everyone's preference on how they want to live their life is different, but as for me, I want to focus on spending as much time as possible for myself and with people that I love, respect and care for because that's how much I value my time. I guess there are many reasons why we care what others think of us, but I think the major factor comes from fear of not belonging, being excluded, being made fun of, or being neglected by others. However, if we focus on the fear too much and worry excessively, it can have such a negative effect on our lives. What I learned by practicing how to remain unbothered is the importance of acknowledging my values and building self-awareness. Through the journey of remaining unbothered, I could ask myself many questions in regards to who I desire to become in the future and what I really want in my life. Then I could increase my self-awareness by asking myself many questions about life, which led me to experience the 3 lessons that I've talked about in this video. Remaining unbothered does not happen overnight, just like anything else you try to improve in your life. I try to be conscious of what I experience in life, and it feels as if it's a routine, like things happen to me, I make mistakes, I reflect on my mistakes, I try again next time. This is how I gain a lot of my values, and I can live my life being true to myself at this point because I learned what is important and what isn't important to me by making a lot of mistakes in life. There's a Japanese proverb which is nanakorobi yaoki, meaning that fall 7 times and rise again 8 times. This means that no matter how many times you fall, as long as you get up and keep going, that gives you the strength to deal with difficult situations in life along the way. I think of life as an RPG game. It never gets easy, and the older I get, the harder the obstacles become, and they continue giving me new challenges in life. But I also level up from the obstacles that I encounter, and it's as if I get better equipment for life as I keep moving forward. In the game of life, I'm the main character of my own life, so although I encounter obstacles and challenges on a daily basis, I know I can always learn from every experience that is given to me, and each experience helps me build my character, Sena Shimotsuma, that I can get to live every day. Problems may be unavoidable, but the meaning of each problem can be described differently depending on how we look at it, because we can get to control what our problems mean based on how we choose to think about them. Being aware of your surroundings and spending time with yourself, as well as trying to question what is really important to you in your life, gives you the courage not to care about what others think of you. I hope this video will be a little encouragement for all of us to become true to ourselves and live the life that aligns with our beliefs and values, because we are the main characters of our own life. You have no responsibility to live up to what other people think you ought to accomplish. I have no responsibility to be like they expect me to be. It's their mistake, not my failing. that's the end of the video today. I hope you guys enjoyed this topic. If you like this video, please give this video a thumbs up, because when you hit the like button, the YouTube algorithm helps my channel grow and reach people who are interested in the topics that I discussed on my channel. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please consider subscribing, and I will keep striving to create videos that are worth your time. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys later. Bye!